Hey guys, my name is Shalonda Moore. I am a transaction coordinator and the owner of a transaction coordination company that services 50 states and more than 7 different countries. With that being said, I wanted to come to you today and talk about the basic and primary responsibilities of a transaction coordinator. I like to break it down into 3 different sections to kind of understand our roles and responsibilities throughout that entire transaction. So first, reminders. Reminders are those emails that we will be sending out based upon contingencies and deadlines through the course of a transaction. So your inspection contingency, your deposit, all of those contingencies and deadlines throughout the transaction. We'll be sending out reminders and emails to make sure the necessary items are completed by or on that particular date. Number 2, documentation. It is our responsibility to review every single document that comes through for that entire transaction. The contract, addendums and amendments, the commission agreement, all of that is our responsibility to review and ensure that it is completed accurately. Now, it is not our job to say, yes, it should be the purchase price of this, but what is our responsibility is to make sure in the event that the purchase price was changed, that initials are present beside that item, right? And every single place where there's a signature initial required, that their signature initial is actually there. That is our basic responsibilities when it comes to the contract. Same thing with amendments or addendums in that contract. 1, many TCs actually complete that item, and then 2, you always ensure that the signatures and initials are present. So if an item was sent to the listing agent side, making sure that the listing agent returned that amendment or addendum, and that addendum and amendment is then sent to the appropriate parties at either title company, closing attorney, and lender if applicable. All of that is the basic responsibilities of a transaction coordinator when it comes to documents. And then on top of that is our responsibility to ensure that all documents necessary for that transaction are actually completed and uploaded. So, for example, many brokerages have disclosures and disclosures and other documents that they require for their transaction, right? eXp, for example, they have the affiliated business disclosure, they have the wire fraud disclosure. All of these disclosures are required to be signed for every single transaction. So we make sure those documents are signed, uploaded as well for every single transaction, right? The third item that I love to also say is our task list, right? The basic items that we have to do through every single phase of the contract. Our task list coincides with the reminders and contingencies for that transaction as well. So, for example, prior to your earnest money or initial deposit being due, 1, I need to verify that my buyer has instructions on how they're going to complete that deposit, right? If the closing attorney or title company is holding it and they're wiring the funds, making sure that the wire instructions have been sent from the closing attorney or title company to my buyer, and then my buyer has that access. Depending upon how they're going to submit that deposit, making sure they have the proper instructions based upon that, right? Then once that day comes, making sure that the deposit has been done, right? So prior to that day or the day before, I usually send a reminder to my buyer reminding them if they haven't already submitted their earnest money deposit that it is due tomorrow. This reminder generally gets my buyers to go ahead and send it, right? Because they know it needs to be done and they don't want someone waiting on them for them to be able to complete items. So they go ahead and get that done at that point. If not, the following day, they get another reminder from me, making sure that it's done. And at that point, I'm also going to send an email to the holder of earnest money, depending upon, once my buyer says that they have done it, I'm sending another email to the holder of earnest money saying, hey, can you please provide confirmation that you received it? I never send my buyer's copy of their deposit to the listing agent side, right? I never do that. I always get a copy from the holder of earnest money to send out to the listing agent and the lender, if it's a lender in the transaction, of my buyer's earnest money. I do that same entire process for every single aspect of the contract. The earnest money or initial deposit, our inspection contingency or due diligence period, our financing contingency, if we have any contingencies for our sewer and additional inspections, if we have any contingencies for our appraisal, whatever type of contingency and deadline, the same checklist and process applies, where the items that need to be done prior to that particular contingency, and making sure that we're doing those appropriate follow-ups with the necessary parties as well. So, as a recap, I love to break down the primary responsibilities of a transaction coordinator in the sections of reminder, documentation, and the basic tasks that we're supposed to do. I hope that helps. And make sure you subscribe to our channel.